Welcome everybody to Klarna's summer virtual Smoooth sessions. A massive thank you to Charlotte just now for her epic DJ beats. Delighted to be joined by an amazing diverse panel tonight of industry leaders and really looking forward to what will be a great conversation. We've been very busy at Klarna over the last few months, and I thought I'd share a couple of highlights. In April, we launched something called Give One. Give One is our pledge back to the planet. And it meant that in April, we donated 1% of our latest funding round to a planet fund, meaning $10 million in that fund to help with the biodiversity crisis. In addition to that, we integrated a carbon foot tracking device in our app, meaning that our 90 million global consumers can now understand for every purchase they make on every one of our 250,000 retailers, what the carbon footprint is of that purchase. They can also be educated on what they can do to help improve their carbon footprint across all purchases. In addition to Give One, last month, we launched a very important campaign in the UK called Why Pay Interest. Why Pay Interest is really about the fact that for far too long, the traditional banks and credit card companies have been making money through hidden fees, skyrocket interest rates, and profiting from consumers missing payments. We believe there's a better way, and at Klarna, you only ever pay the price of the product. Last year alone, the old banks and the credit card companies charged UK consumers £5.7 billion in interest fees, whereas Klarna and Buy Now Pay Later helped save the UK consumers 76 million. So we felt it was time to share that message quite proudly and broadly across the UK, and it'll be live from now for the rest of the summer. Just last week, we also launched our influencer white paper. We did a study with YouGov that showed that actually 30% of the UK population were acting on financial advice from influencers, yet 50% of the population didn't understand that hashtag ad meant the influencer had been paid for that post. So we launched a council in the last quarter to really drive thought leadership in this space, and I'm proud that you can all get access to that white paper, and we'll start to see that coming through in our marketing. On that Why Pay Interest point, in the time it's taken me to introduce the event, 3 minutes, sorry, the big banks and credit card companies will have charged UK consumers over £30,000 in interest rates. But enough from me, over to Deborah to kick off tonight's proceedings.
Thanks so much, AJ. As you said, I'm Deborah Joseph. I'm Editor-in-Chief of Glamour. I'm really excited and delighted to be here with you today. I wanted to start by thanking Klarna for bringing us together for another virtual Smoooth session, where we'll be discussing how brands are reacting positively in their markets to the challenges of the past 15 months. And what a 15 months it's been, a difficult and disruptive time, but also one, I think, of huge innovation, where many retailers have been forced to rethink their business models and in many cases pivot, whether it be responding with product or technology and reacting to customer needs. I'm really excited to introduce you to our diverse and impressive panel today with leaders from fashion, beauty, tech and jewelry industries who will be sharing their experiences and insights from working throughout COVID. So first off, I wanted to say hi and welcome to Remy Mobilard, who's the global PR manager of one of my favorite beauty brands, Huda Beauty. Welcome. Next on to Simona Gayabara, who's the head of marketing at JBL, Diego Freya, who's the e-commerce director of Totem, Annie Rose Lauer, the head of e-commerce at Alexa Chung and Bella Freud, Sharon Solis, the head of retail at Astrid Mayu, Oliver Wayman, co-founder of Bottle Top, and of course, AJ. Welcome to all of you. I hope you're enjoying the sunshine wherever you are. I know we're all in different countries here, which is the amazing thing about talking on Zoom. To kick things off, I wanted to go to Remy. I wanted to ask you, how has the past year impacted the beauty obsessed, retail obsessed customer in your experience? And in the past, people have always said, a bit like they did with luxury goods, oh God, beauty is never going to work online. You've got to try it on, you've got to make sure it matches your skin tone. Do you think that the past year has totally changed the way we shop for beauty?
I mean, I think definitely it's diversified the way that we shop beauty now. For us at Huda Beauty, we do a lot of our work with our retail partners in traditional brick and mortar outlets. And for a lot of last year, that wasn't possible. Consumers weren't able to physically go into a shop and touch and feel and swatch. I'm a big swatcher personally. You know, their makeup products that they were considering purchasing, or their skincare products to feel the texture. So a lot of brands, us included, have had to kind of shift our focus and our emphasis in terms of marketing, in terms of PR, in terms of really everything, in terms of strategy, and focus a little bit more on our e-commerce. So that's something that we really kind of honed in on in the last year. And I think, yeah, so that's kind of on a practical side, but on a kind of philosophical side, if you will, I think what a lot of people have seen in the last year, and for us especially, being a super digitally native brand, with our founder being kind of the ultimate influencer, who was started out as a blogger and before that was a makeup artist, we've seen consumers start to purchase not only with their wallets, but also with their hearts. And we've seen, you know, we're so connected to our consumer through our social media, and we've seen, especially through social media throughout the last year, through everything that's happened, you know, consumers demanding and looking for brands who speak up about what they believe in. So people want to see brands talking about, you know, the causes that they're passionate about, who they're supporting, who they're giving to, what do they truly believe. So no longer, brands aren't really allowed to just sort of, or aren't super successful by just having cool products and like cute pictures. Consumers really want to know that brands believe in what they believe in as well. And that's one of, I think, the biggest takeaways for the last year that we've observed and reacted and started to talk about the things that we might have talked about internally as a brand, like our founders may have spoken about amongst themselves, and making sure that those are visible to our consumers.
And what would you say has been the biggest innovation that you've brought to play in the past 12 months?
Ooh, the biggest innovation. I mean, I would say probably in terms of product, you mean, or just in terms in general?
In general, in business.
I would say, I don't know, something that we started maybe mid last year was doing digital consultations. And that really sort of, that's it, where consumers will have the opportunity to have a consultation similar to what you might experience if you were to go into one of our counters. Let's say in Sephora, we've got a digital beauty consultant who essentially will help you to find the right products and talk you through each of the products, the textures, all of the knowledge. And that's quite interesting, I think, when we're talking about consumer behavior and trying to match the experience that one would have in person with what you can do digitally now. In terms of products, we've ventured into some new categories for ourselves. One being mascara, which I think, yeah, it's a category, one of the categories that did the best in beauty globally across many brands last year, because that's one of the few things you can see sort of through Zoom, and one of the bare minimum products that people were still gravitating toward, even when they were staying at home and working from home.
It's really interesting what you were saying about connecting with your customer on a social level, not just in terms of product, but what you stand up for and what you believe in. And I wanted to move this question on to you, AJ. How important do you think it is to build an emotional connection with customers, as Remy referenced?
Yeah, I think what Remy said really resonated, that wallets with your heart is a really important point. And that idea that we live in a world where you need to be transparent and you need to be really, really clear with consumers about your message, or lean into some topics. For us, I mean, for us at Klarna, emotion is, I guess, our brand. Smoooth is a world we've created that evokes a feeling, a very different to the traditional way of promoting a fintech or a bank, because we want people to, feel and experience our products and have an emotional reaction. And that's something that we've believed in, I think, since day dot. I think particularly on the point in and around, I guess, leaning into being transparent on difficult topics. I think it's important to bring that emotional connection through there as well. We just recently launched a campaign called Discover the Truth. I think for those in the UK that are watching, Klarna, we have 14 million consumers, yes, but we live in a world now where a Reddit thread or a tweet overnight can become national news. And so that's led to some common misconceptions about our brand in the UK. And instead of treating what is quite a mundane topic, a misconception, we decided to bring a lot of creativity and emotional thinking to that by working with a very famous Spanish artist called Ignacy, who's created these beautiful murals that are across the UK at the moment, that are leaning into some very ridiculous topics, but their emotional connection, because they're bringing to life that misconception, but they're entertaining consumers, making them smile, making them laugh, making them experience it, and calling on them to then actually play an interactive experience to dispel that myth themselves. So we bring emotional, I guess, branding, creativity to everything, whether it be a product launch or a misconception about our brand.
That's really interesting. I do think the last year has been just one of so much social change, which a lot of, as you said, has played out on social media, you know, and just the conversations around Black Lives Matter, conversations around sustainability. I'm interested to know, Oliver, at Bottle Top, how have these impacted your mission and business?
Well, it hasn't impacted the mission per se, because this is always very much what we were about from the beginning. You know, we've been kind of flying this flag for almost 20 years now. But what it did do, which was interesting, I think I mean, we launched a campaign with the United Nations called Together Band in 2019, which I think you're familiar with and you've been a part of. So thanks for representing.
Yeah, it's great.
But the idea is just to bring these core key messages around what we need to do to maintain the planet in its current form. And it's become a critical part for us. You know, we've been launching sequentially the different goals with amazing ambassadors. I think we've generated over 4.3 billion impressions so far. But when the pandemic hit, you know, March of last year, it was very much a moment of like, what happens now? You know, what direction are people going to take? And there were plenty of people telling us that no, this is it now. You know, it was good to take a sustainable kind of, you know, good to be pushing your sustainable credentials, but actually people are really going to be thinking about the bottom line now. People are struggling. The world's changed. So sorry, this is it. Instead, no, the opposite happened. People had time to reflect, to philosophize. What were they doing with themselves? What were they doing with their lives? What were they doing within their businesses? And actually, we found a complete 180. It's been really, really encouraging. That even, dare I say, at the top of certain governments, you know, the Build Back Better mentality. It's not. We saw how much wrong we were doing previously, and now we need to start improving and kind of, you know, working towards some pretty ambitious goals, but goals that we need to try and achieve to give ourselves of actually maintaining the planet in its current form. So no, our experience has been very, very positive, I'm glad to say. It's, you know, we're finding more appetite than ever around conscious spending. You know, going back to what AJ's point of, you know, spending with your heart, wallet with your heart, we're really about, you know, economic environmentalism in a way. Spend green. You know, if you've got that option, then and now that we can ascertain that the quality is the same, you can really make sure that the quality of product is at the right level, that the people who are making it are being looked after at the right, you know, at the level that you would feel comfortable with personally and being paid fairly. Then choose that option, because we all have the power. We have the power to do that through finance and through platforms like Klarna. That's exactly what this is about.
There's definitely a power for businesses like yours that have seen these conversations coming, as you said, for 20 years, and you're so ahead of the game, and now suddenly it feels like the rest of the world is catching up with you.
I hope so.
It feels that way.
I guess we have to just try to make sure that you can pick up the greenwashing when it becomes very, very apparent, because there are unfortunately a few brands trying to get into that space with perhaps not the right mentality at heart. But you know what? It's great that the conversation is moving in this direction. You know, we saw the food movement happening with organic food, near on kind of 15, 20 years ago. That was a tidal wave, and still is. You know, look at the organic options you get in supermarkets. We haven't seen the same in fashion. We've seen a little bit in design, which world we're in as well. But it's starting to turn now. And we're actually in quite a unique position that I would argue that there's probably more demand for good quality, sustainable, serious product then there is supply. And so I think there's a lot of catching up to do in terms of brands and producers to actually help supply serious, ethically produced products that can fit within that remit.
I completely agree, and especially in the Gen Z and millennial space, that's just an expectation now. It's not even a look, oh look, wow, they're sustainable as a business. It's like, it's just an expectation. People expect it as part of business's DNA. So
Absolutely.
I think people do, you know, they have catching up to do, but there's no shame in saying we're not perfect. Right?
No, I agree, and that's a really good point, actually, Deborah. You're right, because I think people do need to be honest about, everyone's made mistakes on an individual level, or on a brand level, on a business level, particularly if you've got years of legacy behind you. But it's like, okay, taking note of those mistakes, but actually letting the public know what you're doing to improve that, and to make the correct changes to then move in the direction that we need to move to, because I think you're right. The Gen Z are smarter than that now. They know what they want, and they're not going to just put up with kind of a facade of pretending that things are going in the right way when actually that it's showing that they're different. I also think brands and companies, businesses haven't got a choice. You're either going to be left behind because you're not working up quickly enough, or you can pretend you're doing something, but actually the transparency in supply chains is becoming so clear now, whether it's through blockchain or different methods of analysis, that you can't really escape the way you're making and producing and selling product. And if people want to find out what you're doing, then they will eventually. Technology's enabled that. So you've either got to start to, in whatever form you can, start to rework your business so that it adheres to those environmental credentials, or as I mentioned, unfortunately, the public will move on and people won't be buying your products anymore.
Or you'll know about it on social media. That's for sure.
Right.
If there isn't transparency, it's being called out, which is it's a scary time, but also, as I said, it's an exciting time for businesses to make those changes. I'd like to move on to ask you, Diego, a question. Actually, obviously, Totem is a luxury fashion house. And you've been through hyper growth in the last year. How has that growth affected your mission and how you speak to your customer moving forward?
A good question. Totem faces a very interesting challenge, an opportunity of having a customer base that goes all the way from Australia, Korea, China to the US and beyond even. So, and of course, everything in between. So for us, as we grow and we scale, we want to continue offering our customers, our fans, curation, quality, and that Totem experience that we always aim to deliver. So as I said, I think having a very diverse customer base presents us some of the challenges, from operational, technical challenges, understanding sort of local nuances when it comes to shopping behavior, but also opportunity, because we realize that the Totem woman, regardless where she's from, shares specific values and specific aesthetic. So that has been great for me, sort of working within the e-com department and trying to cater for a diverse customer base.
Do you think talking about the sustainability, where does luxury and sustainability come together? Where does your messaging come into that?
Oh, good question. They say that luxury is a true sustainability. I heard someone say once, but to be honest, for us, it's a journey, right? We start with aiming to deliver the highest quality possible, so the item that you get from Totem will last you forever. We also have many initiatives regarding sustainability, from better fibers and transparency throughout the supply chain. And then closer to home, or closer to my team, when it comes to returns, is working hard in reducing the return rate, just making sure that the customers get it right. So yeah, there's we think about this a lot, and as Oliver was saying, that brands need to really think about this, and they need to act on it as well and be authentic. This is what. Also, don't forget, I mean, we have there's people behind the brand, and all of us care about this. So it goes in every direction, not only from us internally, but also from customers demanding action here. So yeah, for us, it's really important, very hot topic, and we work on this constantly.
Yeah, thank you. I wanted to move to you, Simona. Obviously, as head of marketing at JBL, how has your product development been impacted in the last year?
I think that more product development, of course, takes quite a long time to kind of respond to what's happening. I think the most immediate action that we had to do was actually rethink of customer needs with our current products. So we had products that were dedicated to traveling, for example, that we had to reinvent and really kind of show the customer how they can use it within their home. And you know, we have all been kind of glued to our computer and Zoom, so we really had the need for people to kind of being able to talk and respond, and headphones really took a central part of that. So my team, one thing that my team did is like, okay, you know, we're launching our gaming headphones. Those are also the perfect product for calls and for business calls. So why don't we talk about that as well? The other thing about our noise cancelling headphones, for example, was really find a way for people to be able to exercise with those and kind of being able to move, walk, and kind of have the freedom to do it. So I think for us, the immediate response was rethink of those needs and really understand how consumer can kind of get that immediate response to really like a changing environment. And music was for us like quite important, and we know it was really important for our consumers too, like during the pandemic. We did wanted to kind of make sure that the power of music and really the possibility for consumer to enjoy music even within their home or within their garden was still there, and they had the opportunity to get the product that was right for that specific need.
I mean, you're right. They've just literally been front and center of almost every part of my life, actually. So it must have been an exciting year for you in a lot of ways.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it also gave us the opportunity to talk about it. And I think, you know, we discussed it before about social. We know that, you know, social has changed and became really like the shop window that we couldn't see like physically. So it was important for us really approach diverse set of influencers or content creators that could really showcase our products and kind of discuss with our customers like firsthand.
Also, talking of innovation, I wanted to speak to you, Sharon. By the way, my team love all your stuff. They've been telling me they're perfect for Zoom calls. You know, at times when like no one's seeing what's going on down there, it's perfect to see what's going on up here. How have you innovated and changed your customer experience? You know, people haven't been going out partying in the same way as they had, but people are very bothered about what's going on up here. Yeah, how's that affected you? How's it impacted you?
I think, I mean, we've seen that through lockdown. I mean, people have sort of steered away from fashion, but jewellery's just done so well. And we've really seen that like with our sales online and everything like that. And I guess in terms of like a brand for us, so reopening, you know, I think some stores have had a lot of sort of customers coming back, but there's still that sort of, some people are a bit hesitant to come back. And I think the reason that we've been so successful is because I guess we're quite pioneers on experiential retail. So apart from selling jewellery, we offer services within stores where you can get your ears pierced. We also offer like fine line tattoos and seamless sort of welding bracelets. And I guess it's what someone touched on earlier. We've really tried to make it really personal. and all about like an experience and an emotion, because often when people come to stores, it's not just to get your ears pierced, it's like a party, it's like a social event, so it's things that you can't get online. We're making sure that there's a point of difference between that within our stores. So yeah, we'll have like piercing parties, or we'll have groups of friends coming, or even mothers and daughters coming for the first time to get that done, and it's quite sort of special moments where we're trying to create an environment where it is a very social and friendly thing, as opposed to maybe other jewellery brands that are more sort of glass box and you can't really touch it. We want to make it very sort of interactive and I guess like a sort of playground for jewellery lovers, where they can just sort of express themselves and also socialise a little bit with people apart from our store teams. And also, I guess, to keep the engagement within there, we've got like areas where they're sort of very Instagrammable, so sort of connecting both social media and within our stores has worked really well for us. A lot of our appointments, like 70%, are probably based from online interactions. So we're trying to do it both ways as well, where when they're in the stores and engaged, they're then posting it and make it very like sort of organic results from that have, yeah, I mean, we just had a couple actually that went in and got some welding bracelets because it was their anniversary, and it's like had over, I don't know, 10 million views, and it's really like driven that service over the last week. We're fully booked for the whole month of June, which is quite unusual, but yeah, it's just sort of, we can see there's a real potential just to keep growing that, because I think you can't just put product out in a store anymore. You have to create like a good environment now for them want to come back, and like sort of the lifetime value of it really. So people normally don't just get one piercing, they normally get 2 or 3 and they come back at different times, and the same with tattoos, and then they bring their friends as well. So yeah, I guess it's just creating a bigger picture and a real community feel with that, and that seems to be really working really well for us. So yeah, make sure you stop by.
I love that. It's really thinking about the user journey across both digital and in store, and all the touch points that your customer is going to come across with your product. And someone said to me something that really stuck with me, which was your purchase is the souvenir at the end to remind you of the experience. And I've always remembered that in my head. I'm like, you're right. You know, I leave with a gorgeous bag, but actually I want to remember the amazing experience in store. And actually that leads me to a question for you, Annie Rose. Do you think online can ever really create that excitement and digital experience? I mean, I'm a digital first shopper. I barely go into retail stores anymore. I'm busy. I've got 3 children. I'm working full time. I want it quick, but I really miss that gorgeous experience of in store. Do you think, Annie Rose, that it's possible to create that online?
Yeah, I think it's been a massive thing over the last year, is that we're all glued to our phones and to our tablets or whatever all the time, and we're constantly looking for newness. That's why on sort of Instagram and everything. And I think that's really coming into our online shopping habits as well. And when you're buying in, I mean, for me, it's obviously luxury with Bella and with Alexa, but we want to offer an experience. So it's not just a transaction. And customers are buying into the aesthetic, they're buying into the brand. So yeah, I think it's critical now to be looking at how we offer that. And we want to maybe extend that journey online, so that it's not just, right, okay, obviously get your product as quick as possible, but also give them as much brand exploration as you can. I think your point as well of like the purchase at the end being the souvenir and the touch points, because your online session is so small, you've got to think of how are they getting to you in the first place? Is it an ad? Have they received one of your emails? And then how is your packaging looking? What is your returns portal like? Every single one of those has to be a positive experience, so that they're more likely to come back to you as well.
And do you get customer feedback on that? And how is it on social? How do you know when you're getting it right?
Yeah, I think we're looking actually at implementing reviews and a bit of a loyalty scheme to really engage a bit more with our customers, because I think that is a really key thing, is that we need to be understanding is what we're doing. I mean, data is all very well and good, but we need to be reactive. And I think that we've all seen that so much over the last year, that we can only sort of base so much on what's happened previously, and listening to our customers. So be it through surveys or offering them something back. Reviews, I think, is becoming more key. I think especially with the credibility of the brand, I think Oliver said as sort of a sustainable aspect, customers really want to know that what they're purchasing from you is sort of worth it, I guess, and they're looking to their peers as well as to the brand.
And going on to our earlier conversations, do you feel, aligning yourself with social causes or sustainability, are you finding that's important to you as well?
Yeah, it is incredibly important, but I also think it's more important to do it well and to do it honestly. So not to rush it. And as Diego said, it's definitely a journey. You can't rush to do everything at once because you'll get it wrong and you'll get caught out for it. So I think that it's important to do the things that you're doing well and to evolve that and do everything that you can to improve it, but don't try and run before you can walk with those sorts of things, because it's so important.
Also, you need the receipts. If you haven't got the receipts, it's not believable, it's not authentic.
Exactly.
And it takes time to get the receipts, doesn't it? So
yeah, and inevitably there will come some cost to the business at certain things, not everything, but those have to be planned in. It's still a business to kind of introduce those things. It's got to be done properly.
Yeah, I agree. I wanted to go back to the earlier conversation about the relationship between online and physical retail and how that relationship works for. I'd like to speak to all of you about this, actually, all of you that have retail. What do you think you're all going to have to do to go that extra mile to make retail more experiential? You're going to be investing in, AI and, what kind of stuff are you going to be doing in store? Sharon, I wanted to ask you first what your thoughts are.
I mean, definitely AI is such a big potential there, so it's definitely what we're working on now, to have that sort of connection within there. I think to make sure that online is sort of very seamless for us is super important. Digital styling was something that we really worked on during lockdown as well, and found it really successful. Before we just had one person, but what we did was, because all the stores were closed, we made all of our managers became sort of hosts, and we made like little profiles for them online where customers could read about the people they were going to meet before that, and then they could book in a sort of 30-minute chat. And it's very much, we don't want to like throw sales down anyone's throat. It was very like to be conversational. It would be great if they did sales, but we were sort of looking at the long-term future as well. So often people would come online and ask for things about piercings, or then would just like have really large transactions. So people that maybe hadn't spent for a while were spending like £800 in one transaction. And then what we found is when we opened stores, a lot of those customers that done sort of digital appointments then came to the stores looking for the people that they were speaking to actually online. So it just builds a really lovely connection. And it's just what you say, sometimes you're just too busy to do it, and you might want to still speak with someone, so you just have that option of it being personable without just being online, and you don't really feel any connection. It's just a bit more social that way. So it's definitely something that we will sort of work on and build in the future, so it's just easier and more convenient for everyone, I guess.
Also, piercing parties is so clever because it's just not something you can do at home, so it's a guaranteed driver in store, isn't it? There's just no other way of doing it.
And as things have sort of calmed down a little bit now, I noticed like maybe other retailers are a bit less empty, but we still have like appointments coming and queues outside, and it just creates that buzz. So yeah, it definitely drives people to stores.
Simona, I wanted to ask you the same question about your relationship with the physical and the online. How's that going to work for you? Are you doing anything particularly exciting and innovative in store?
I think for now it's still quite it's still quite tricky because at the moment, especially in tech, we are still quite close to store being very careful and cautious of how many people let in. So it's tricky to kind of still create something exciting and at the same time don't create anything that can cause any risk or kind of disrespect their staff. So what at the moment we're doing is like really making sure that the products are looking amazing. There's still quite a lot of people that because they're going to spend beyond maybe £100 over speaker or per headphones, they want to see it and they want to try. They want to listen to the music. So for us, really training the team coming back to stores is the number one priority. Making sure that all this stuff is kind of is there to help. I think what we said before about the experience is so important. And when you go into tech where products can feel the same, the training really makes a difference, because then you have somebody that can really teach you how to listen to certain specifics of the audio or the audio quality, or really guide you to the best products for your needs. I think that as soon as we are able to kind of create some more experience in store, then for us then the excitement is gonna start. I think we're really famous for live music. We had events planned, especially for the gaming community, that unfortunately we had to cancel. I think gaming is going to be particularly exciting because it's true that people kind of game on their own, but it's such a big driver to store, where people actually want to go to stores to kind of do a gaming contest or just meet and chat about the new products, see the latest technology that is out, and really test how the products will react while you game. So I think that's for me is the most exciting bit that as soon as we're able to do, we're really going to focus on.
I know it looks like I've got a pink backdrop here, but actually if you remove it, there's actually a full gaming room going on behind me. You can't tell. This is my husband and my son's gaming cave that I'm not normally allowed in, so I feel quite privileged today. But yeah, I do think, female gaming as well it's just, it's such a massive industry moving forward. And from an experiential perspective, there's so many opportunities there, which I think is a really exciting time, actually.
Yeah, the gaming industry have been focusing into like a male customer for such a long time. So it's nice to see how you can change, and what can you make interesting also for a different customer.
Yeah. Oliver, what's in store for your flagship store at Bottle Top?
Yeah, it's a lot going on. I think you probably can definitely can empathise with a lot of the other comments, and it's been a challenging time without a doubt. Particularly in the UK, we've been forced into having the store closed for the majority of the pandemic. So we've had to do some transitional shifts, I guess, in a way. I mean, tourists have dropped significantly, but we've always been about innovation and trying to really inspire and engage people into what we're about. So we built the first 3D printed store in the world made out of recycled plastic, which is on Regent Street. And that acted as a great tool, as a great vessel to help people to not only, educate and inspire people around what's possible with sustainable materials and zero production techniques, but also kind of helping them to show that it doesn't need to be kind of beige and a bit dull. It can be bold and innovative and exciting. Sustainability can be at the forefront and of design. And that's been a really important part around what we've done. So I think without a doubt we've had to invest in digital and make sure that almost the lines, I think the lines are being greyed anyway generally around people. If someone tries on a bag in our store and then really likes it, but then isn't sure, and then buys it on the train home from their phone, then that's still is that a digital or a physical purchase? It's both. We should see it kind of holistically in a way. And I'm a firm believer in the physical, in the experiential. Being able to really understand and engage with a brand in their own environment, I think is absolutely critical. And of course there are going to be teething issues and transitional issues, and we've seen plenty of good businesses sadly go bust who have been really focused on retail, but I would argue that they probably were struggling prior to the pandemic anyway. So I think if anything, it's just accelerated that process, and it's meant that we've all had to be really creative and innovative around how we can help them merge the two fields of digital and physical. Specifically what we're doing, I mean, for the end of July, which is quite an interesting campaign, is we're doing a huge aerial artwork across the whole of Regent Street, partnering with the Crown Estate, the landlords there, to inspire people to switch to clean energy providers and to push for a renewable world by 2035. So, you know, any electricity generated should be purely from renewable sources by 2035 in developed countries and across the world by 2040. That's in the run up to the COP. So we've got an amazing, iconic British graphic artist called Morag Myerscough, and she's designing these flags with 100 sequential flags going across the whole street. And that's going to be one side pushing people towards clean energy, making them think about what they're doing from a sustainability standpoint, but also in turn purifying the air in the street. So it's going to be purifying the equivalent of 140,000 car journeys in the 6 weeks it's up. So these kind of mass scale initiatives I think are so important. People have been working towards, and even myself and you know, people around have been working towards the local. We've all become so local, and just buying things online and in a way naturally not having to go into town, not having to go into cities has meant that I think we're missing quite a big part of the retail experience. So you need to be creative, and you need to be brash and bold, and do things like this aerial art campaign we're working on to help drive customers back into town and make them realise that it's you know, that we need to kickstart things again and get back into the world we knew, which was based around, you know, the experiential side, which is as important for me as digital, for sure.
You brought up a really good point there that we've not discussed, which is the local element, because as a lot of businesses, you know, we're being told as a business we're going to hybrid working. So I'm going to go from 5 days a week in the centre of London to maybe 2 days a week locally. Do you think, I'm interested, I'm going to open this up to all of you. Do you think there is going to be a more localisation of in-store experiences? Can you see yourself moving out from central and going more local?
Personally, I think it's quite a difficult one to answer, in that where do you choose local? That you would have to expand your retail offering so much, and that even just trying to manage something like that would be really, really challenging. But I think it's almost taking the local on board and realizing what is it that people want from that environment. It's community, I think, in a way, as much as anything else. You know, it's like, how can you build that community? How can you make and meet like-minded people who also buy into the same things that you're buying into? And I think that's probably something that we should all be working on, really trying to really harness that community and help to spread the word in those groups.
I'm going to go on to community actually more in a minute, because it's such an interesting point, but I just wanted to move on quickly onto the future. What's next? You know, what does the future of innovation look like? And I'm really interested, especially in beauty. I'd love to hear that from you, Remy. What does future innovation look like for the beauty industry?
I think if we talk about products specifically, I think about a paring back. You know, the beauty industry is so saturated at the moment. There's been an incredible boom. Everybody and their cousin has a beauty brand. And I think, you know, beauty can, given kind of the artistic nature of cosmetics in particular, there's a lot of really crazy things happening. Like, I recall there was a brand who brought out a blush, or a blusher, as you say in the UK, that was, you could apply with a roller that looked like a paint roller. And it's like, you know, what's next? It's, there are always crazy things happening. But I think given what we've all experienced in the last year in the sort of following the trend of kind of the sweats, I know I have many sweatsuits now that I didn't have in 2019. With beauty, I think it's going to be a paring back and really focusing on kind of the core. So what is core? I think that's your mascaras. I think that's complexion. So like foundations, your blushes, your bronzers, and doing those things very well. And really adapting to what the consumer has been doing. With us, with Huda Beauty, we've just launched a line which focuses on really basic products, which are good for you, they're good for the environment, it's good for your skin. Yeah, so I think it's a paring back in terms of product itself. But when I think about kind of on a 360 scale, you know, and if I apply it again to the beauty industry, I think we will see, and I hope we will see, a lot of innovation in terms of what diversity and inclusion means. You know, historically, and even still today, I think diversity has always been used as quite a tokenistic sort of tick box exercise. So, you know, in beauty, that will look like potentially having 60 shades. but not having actually formulated them for people who have those actual skin tones, or, you know, potentially in marketing, having, you know, having the one like Black model with an afro as kind of a tick box. But I think where the innovation comes in, is something that we're working on, and I personally am working on a lot with Huda Beauty, is how do you apply and how do you improve what you're doing in terms of diversity and inclusion? We call it representation and belonging. But how do you kind of permeate every aspect of the business with diversity and inclusion? What do your teams look like? You know, we saw last year the Pull Up for Change challenge, where brands were asked to you know, state, what does the makeup of your teams look like? Where are they from? Do you have people of color in management positions and leadership positions? I think, you know, there's, you know, people, there is the marketing, of course, but there's also what you're doing internally. So are you supporting your teams? Are you giving people the resources that they need? Are you, you know, what are you doing from the inside out? So I think, you know, brands will be getting a little bit more creative, and hopefully reaching toward something beyond the performative, in terms of diversity and inclusion, and doing that from the inside out.
I completely agree. It's kind of multi-layer transparency. You have to be, you know, it's the same at Glamour. Everybody, when we do a shoot, everybody from like the makeup artist to the photographer to the models, we have to think about diversity across everything we do. It's no good just having the face of diversity as the front of your brand. And I think that's something all businesses are really, you know, set up to be challenged with now. I'm interested to know from you, Diego, what does the future hold for you as a business?
Yeah, for us, there are tech aspects, right? Trying to be hyper local, digitally speaking, trying to find ways to continue listening to our customers, to our community. Also, you know, things around logistics. So yeah, there are many angles for us when it comes to tech, but also if I think of sort of non-tech areas, for example, say as we expand into open new stores in new cities, how do we deliver that great experience? How do we keep things in mind like great service, as well as diversity and inclusion? How do we deliver the experience that we want to deliver at scale? I mean, we are based in Stockholm, so that's quite, in some ways, isolated from other areas where we operate. And so, yeah, we're always trying to find ways or think about ways to stay connected to our peers, to our community, regardless of where they are, and stay local, I guess, even though we are in Stockholm.
Thanks so much. Just some really interesting food for thought there. We've had some more interesting questions from the audience that I'd like to share with you all. And I'm actually really impressed by all these questions. I hadn't thought of some of them myself. So I'm going to start with the first one, which was, in light of Etsy acquiring Depop this week, who would your ideal brand takeover or collaboration be with? Okay, I'm going to start with you, Simona. What's your view on that?
So what would be my ideal collaboration? I think for us, I would love to collaborate with an artist, with a contemporary artist or a fashion designer. I think we're quite bold with our products, but I would really be keen to kind of see the next step and see how those products can be really reinterpreted in a different way. And for example, I know that actually Damien Hirst is quite a big fan of our products. He has been using while painting. So yeah, I would love to see how it would like paint one of our huge speakers, for example.
That's cute. I love that idea. How about you, Sharon?
So
either who would your ideal brand takeover be, or your I mean, the brand takeover is a difficult question, but or collaboration, that's more comfortable.
I think collaboration actually is probably not what you would expect, but we actually do like a mentorship for like new and upcoming brands. So we've got like in our new Notting Hill store, we've got like a little area where we we basically support and mentee these people through the businesses from the beginning until they can launch as a brand. And I think that's something that I think we'd just like to continue that with. So I guess not picking the stars, but more helping to build and develop the new ones. I think that's where we'd probably go with.
Has anyone else got thoughts on this question that they'd particularly like to add?
Ooh, I do.
Yeah,
I'm like so excited. I think, beauty and fashion obviously have a natural synergy. So something that I've like kept in my head, I would love to do a collaboration with a brand like Telfar. I don't know if you guys are familiar with them. It's New York based, Black queer owned, brand that's become popularized by their tote bag. They're just incredibly innovative, really great at storytelling, and just present themselves in such a unique and special way, an expressive way, which I think is really linked to, I would say, what millennials and Gen Zs are looking for today. It's that authenticity. And I think that would very much resonate with what we do as a brand. And yeah, so Telfar, if you're out there. Yeah. Yeah, maybe.
What about you, AJ?
It's a great question. I was thinking throughout what everyone's brilliant answers going. Klarna, who would you want to work with? The example of Depop is a really important one. I think there's a really interesting role for Klarna to play in helping, I guess, via our service and going, hey, this is what you would have bought potentially previously. And this is actually what you could, use Depop to do to help resell it and actually sort of, get that lifetime value out of that product. But on a total sort of random, like storytelling crush vibe, I would say Shonda Rhimes, who is one of the best storytellers and creators I think we've seen in at least the last decade plus. And I think she's done, Bridgerton is probably her most recent smash hit example, but she's just a phenomenal woman if you ever hear her speak. And I think she can do great things with storytelling. And that could be a great mix with her and Klarna in the future.
I'd love to see that. I'd absolutely. Did you all watch Bridgerton, or is it just a UK thing?
Oh yeah, definitely watched it.
And if you haven't watched it, it's incredible. It's absolutely brilliant. Okay, so another question I thought was interesting. What excites you about the road to recovery and the remainder of 2021? There's been a lot of challenges. There has been a lot of innovation, but just you individually in your roles, what excites you for your business? Oliver, I'll ask you that. Thank you.
Ooh, exciting. Yeah, I think probably going back to, in a way, what I mentioned earlier, the fact that there is there's a passion to really build back properly, to make up for the mistakes that we've previously made. I think there is a real appetite. There's an energy. There's a new energy, I guess, that I'm feeling, which I don't think I'd necessarily felt prior to the pandemic. I think people have been locked up for so long now that they've had so much time to reflect on, what they want to do and where they want to go. That actually, I think it could be really. I think it could. The silver lining out of this whole awful situation is that people might now, accelerate towards certain things which wouldn't have seemed possible before. Like I was surprised that even the likes of Volkswagen, Jaguar are going fully electric by 2025. That's 4 years time. I mean, I'm sure if you'd said that to me a year, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, we would have been laughed out of the room. But I do feel like there's some serious appetite for change now. And I think people were scared to kind of go into this big scale thinking and put these big targets on without thinking, oh no, it's not possible. But actually, it's there are some serious moves being made in this field, or across the whole the sustainability spectrum, and I've been really pleasantly encouraged. So I think all I hope is that we can keep with this mentality. We don't lose focus, and we maintain the moves that have been made, the acceleration towards these parts. That definitely excites me. And I think reconnecting again with people is going to be, I think, for personally or for all of us, particularly for people who live over long distances, it's going to be a really important, but probably also enlightening experience. You know, half my family lives across the world. You know, my brother's in Hong Kong, and my nieces are there. They're going to look completely different by the time if I ever get to see them again at this rate. But I think these kind of interactions are probably going to embolden us and make us feel even more passionate and give us, you know, a kind of a joy to live, and hopefully start to infiltrate positive messages across what we're doing. So, yeah, I'm excited.
I have to say I share those excitements with you. I think digital, I think innovation is accelerated by 10 years during COVID. I think things that we could never have possibly imagined, or we sort of thought of, but people at work sometimes thought you were mad for even suggesting it. And suddenly that everyone's like, wow, we really need to be doing this. And there's a renewed energy for change, which is a really, it's an incredible time to be working and to be alive, I think.
Definitely. I think we're going to see such an exciting bounce back, you know, now.
Yeah,
because people have had so long to really think about it, that it's I think it's going to be a really, hopefully, an excellent time to be living through.
What do you think, Annie? What are your thoughts? What are you excited about for the rest of 2021?
Yeah, I think, like you said, we've seen digital grow so much over the last sort of 6 to 8 months, or it's like incredible. And I think, especially working in e-com, you never know it all. There's always something else to learn, and that's what I find so exciting. And I think, especially over the last year, with sort of gathering new customers to the sites, we're looking at really how we retain those and what people are going to be wanting. It's sort of really understanding the customer. And I think, yeah, that's incredibly exciting, and it opens up a load of potential for us as well as brands. Also producing new product, is it different product areas? What do customers want to see next from us as well?
And how are you planning to retain, you know, the customers that you've gained, you know, in lockdown? Have you got any plans to keep them going now everyone's out and about partying and, you know?
I mean, we definitely saw over the pandemic a real surge in our homeware product at Bella Freud, our candles and cushions and sort of cashmere track suits and stuff. That was sort of became really, really popular. And I think then bringing in those customers, we need to be delivering sort of newness. I think that the need for newness for our customers we've really seen a massive growth in that. I think also we're going to start looking at some loyalty schemes. I think a lot of brands are doing sort of not necessarily applicable for us, but subscription services have happened over lockdown. So I think loyalty and subscription, and how are those going to develop? But I think customer retention is a huge thing that everyone's going to be looking at this year.
I'm also looking at that actually at Glamour, and the gamification and getting just the gamification of loyalty and point systems, and it's a really interesting space. And again, it brings back to the gaming conversation. It's big in gaming, it's big in apps, which I used to work in, and it's interesting to bring that into retail and bring that kind of gamification to the experience. So we should talk more about that. It's a really interesting topic. Is anybody else looking at those loyalty schemes and the gamification of it? You are, okay.
Yes.
Diego.
We may or may not be working. No, we are. I mean, we're trying to find ways to create, to reward, to celebrate loyalty, right? Just to really strengthen that relationship between us and our customers. And for a brand like Totem, you know, it's not the easiest of challenges, but in some ways that's very exciting. How can we reward, right, that loyalty in ways that are more aligned to our brand, aligned to the experience that we want to deliver? And a lot of the answers are around, I believe, and we believe, that they're around service, right? Just sort of layers of service and layers of how to, from, I don't know, delivering a product a certain way, to delivering services a specific way, to curation, to, you know, personal styling and other ways to have different layers of a program. So, but definitely a big area for us this year. This is a challenge for us, and I think it aligns well with sort of the optimism and new energy that you guys were discussing earlier. We really want to, more than ever, we want to be really close to our customers. not only as a brand, but also us as employees of Totem, we really want to get closer to our customers as much as we can. So this is a really good way to try to achieve that.
I think one thing we haven't really delved into is social media and how to create a connection with the audience via social media. And there's been a few questions on that. So I thought we could maybe go into that. So actually, Remy, I'm interested to talk to you about this because I know Huda herself personally, but also you as a brand, as you said, it started off as a social first brand almost, and it's developed beyond that. How do you continue to create a community and be a connection with your audience? You know, for people who haven't been able to go in store and maybe try on a lipstick, they can watch her do. I mean, I do it with my girls sometimes. You know, we watch her doing her tutorials and we copy it. It's such an amazing close connection with your brand. How are you moving that forward?
I mean, I think a large part of our success in social media and why we continue to grow, we're at 48 million on Instagram, being one of the most talked about, one of the most hashtag beauty brands, or the most talked about beauty brand in social media. You know, I think a big part of that is our user-generated content. So a large portion of what we do on our social media is reposting consumers, regular consumers using the product themselves. So in that, people feel actually invested in and like they've contributed to the brand and to the messaging. I think, yeah, that's quite important in building a community, is allowing people to feel like they're a part of it as well. And then kind of, I feel that another big part of our success is also just the transparency and the openness of Huda herself. You know, she is very candid. As a PR, it makes me nervous sometimes how candid and how open she is on social media and in interviews, but kind of allowing people to have a window into her psyche and her everyday life and the things that she struggles with, such as body image or you know, growing up in the American South as an Iraqi you know, woman, you know, being vulnerable and being open and talking about those things candidly. She truly just will sit sometimes in her living room, and we call it a rant. She does a rant on her social media about just like whatever is at the top of her mind at the time, and then it gets published, and that, I think, helps consumers to feel a closeness, which you don't usually have access to with brands of our size. So yeah, I think it's a transparency thing, but it's also allowing consumers to engage with us as well.
Simona, do you have any advice for people out there listening of ways that people can grow their social media following and connect with their audience via social?
I think especially during the pandemic, like I saw really loads of brands creating content on Instagram Live, and personally, I really like it. And you know, some of them were planned, you know, around the topic, so people, you know, could prepare and, you know, knew what was happening, and some kind of just happened very naturally. And I thought that was great. And going back to Remy's point, it kind of really opens the authenticity of having something happening in real life where you can just listen in and just kind of discuss with, you know, whatever brand or whatever conversation the brand is leading. And I think that's quite definitely an important part. I think for me is also the aesthetics and kind of the brand image is incredibly important, especially if you want to grow your social media and you want, you know, people to kind of start to like it. And, you know, at the end of the day, I always think like if your customer wants to engage with the brand, there needs to be a meaning of that. You know, nobody wants to just discuss with brands. Like, the brands need to stand for something. It needs to have like an aesthetics that is consistent, that the consumer likes, that the consumer resonates with them. And this is like so true, you know, for beauty and for fashion, but also beyond that, it's important. You know, I know what is through the JBL, and all the team is working to make that happening on social. So I think that those aspects are incredibly important to kind of get right.
They are, absolutely. What about you, Sharon? What's your experience of growing your audience and connecting with your audience on social media?
I think definitely during the last year, we sort of went away from just putting products on our social media. Because I think people just get tired of all the like products, and we really focused on self-care and things that were maybe more interesting to make sure it felt like more of a community feel. So we do things like, I don't know, yoga classes, or just tips on different things, just to make it a bit more sort of engaging and interacting. I think also something that Remy said, we try and be very transparent about things, and we're not ones for putting perfect models on. We never have been. It's all different shapes and sizes, and we're trying to get like our actual consumers involved in that as well, and try and showcase them when we can. So yeah, definitely a lot of reposting from things that maybe people have sent to us as well, which I think just makes it more, it's just very genuine and real, I think, and they just feel part of it with us. So yeah, I think those are probably the main things.
Does anyone else have any tips for growing social media and for engaging? Because I think this is a really big topic for a lot of businesses out there right now.
I think also looking at your audiences, you've got your kind of engaged demographic, and then maybe they might be slightly different or a segment of your converting customer as well. So it's really appealing to all of your demographics, because maybe your slightly younger demographic who is really engaged but not converting, they will turn into your converting customer because they're quite aspirational now. So it's sort of treating them all, not just producing maybe one element, you're kind of producing as something that is going to appeal to everyone. And I think also UGC is going to become a big thing as well going forward, so that customers can feel like they're really sort of buying into something and sort of being shown on that platform as well.
Us at Klarna is probably a couple of things. One is, I think people have said it, but really understanding the community and listening to the data and reacting to it and learning with them. And to that point of transparency, it rings true. The other thing that probably hasn't been said that we try to do a lot is really think about what's culturally relevant at the time, or what's being sort of talked about, or what's impacting in culture, and how can we sort of contribute to that, either with our own brand or partnering with some of our retailer partners to really provide an extra service to the community without being seen to just like trying to sell to them. So actually, what is that additional layer we can add to them that gives them something of value back, and gives them a reason to follow, like, or engage with us.
Cool, thank you. And coming on to one of the last questions, Amazon. This is a great question. Has Amazon created customer expectations of next day's free delivery worldwide, which is too costly for smaller brands to compete with? Is there anyone who'd like to start off with this one?
Yeah, I've definitely. I would say yes. Very challenging from many perspectives. Also, besides the cost, just operationally, right? How do you? Sometimes you don't even know what carriers are there in X or Y city. So, but really important. I mean, I am myself super passionate about this, and just trying to deliver things as fast as possible, be local. It's sometimes a mix of okay, do we open more warehouses? Do we, who do we talk to? How do we improve our logistics? But it is a constant challenge. I think cost can be a concern, but it's not the usual challenge. So yeah, quite a tricky one, but definitely I believe that's the golden standard for e-com. Yeah.
Annie, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think that Amazon isn't maybe the only one that sort of matches. They always did their sort of 90-minute delivery within London. I think it is really hard to compete. I think that maybe more luxury brands, we can look at offering a different level of service, maybe more a concierge service, something that fitting product, if it's sort of tailoring or something, bringing other options, maybe upselling products, giving a more personal experience, and it's another touch point with your brand.
Totally. Oliver,
maybe even I would just say, I mean, it would be nice if there could be a bit greater opportunities for collaboration amongst the smaller brands to try to work, because there are a lot of inefficiencies that happen in logistics, unfortunately, and that's just because everyone is trying to is demanding things to be delivered, you know, yesterday. It's the timings have become so challenging for smaller businesses that I think it would be nice, you know, sort of medium term, if we could look at ways to collaborate together and work out ways in which we can also, you know, potentially find efficiencies and economies of scale by you know, putting one delivery van going to specific places rather than you know, rather than multiple ones. So yeah, there's definitely scope there, and I think, you know, it's a transitioning time, but I think it is led by customer demand or customer expectations now around you know, things needing to be delivered so quickly. So yeah, some changes do need to be made.
I love that. Have you got any ideas for the collaboration? Because that's a community within that's communities within brands, not just with your audience. It's a completely different way of looking at community.
I think I've heard it mentioned in groups before, definitely, and I know that there are some smaller kind of logistics providers who are trying to solve that, because it's the problem is, it's like, how can you kind of put that into action when it's all happening consistently? You know, the demand is there, and it's becoming, you know, it's increasing, I'm sure, exponentially as physical retail is minimized. But I have heard some interesting concepts starting, and I suspect that's the way that it will be going, you know, in time. I'm sure, again, technology will be able to facilitate that, maybe have multi-user platforms in which smaller brands can all log in, and then have, you know, a service which can work amongst the smaller businesses, because otherwise a lot of people only use, you know, Amazon as a retailer, but they use it as a logistics platform in its own right, and that's obviously why it's done so well on its marketplace function, because that's what they've nailed. So yeah, I think there's definitely room for improvement there, and yeah, I suspect there'd be a lot of businesses who would be interested in taking that on.
Well, I'm going to end there, because that's such a positive, amazing, community-focused thought to end on, and one that I haven't heard of before. So thank you for that. I wanted to thank all of you, Remy, Diego, Simona, Sharon, Oliver, AJ, and Annie, for a really interesting conversation. I've definitely learned a lot. I hope anyone listening out there has also found it useful and helpful. So we've just to recap, we've discussed the importance of transparency, the importance of sustainability and thinking of environment and your messaging. You can no longer just be a product, you have to actually stand for something, offering experience both online and in person, and using that 360 experience and user journey across the board, and the importance of diversity, not just at the front of your brand, but also at every layer of your brand. That was a really interesting talk. Thank you so much. I'm going to pass you back now to Charlotte to call for another DJ set. So thank you so much. Have a great day.